My name is Kirsty Dignam and I'm here to do this week's Monday musings. I had to think then of a name for it all. Well, this morning I'm working from home. Yesterday, despite having quite a few insights about needing to take a rest and just to take time out and not get caught up in a lot of interesting energies that are going on, I did listen, but I kind of listened half-heartedly. I listened, but didn't, I guess, have the courage to believe in what I was hearing and to actually act on it. So I left my house and my attention kept getting drawn to my car tyre, which I've just had repaired. So I just kept thinking, yes, it's wonderful, it's repaired. I'm so grateful. Thank you. Got in the car on the motorway, heard quite a big bang, had a real feeling that I'd had a blowout, but the car hadn't changed, so I ignored that and continued driving to work. And by the time I got to work, I tried to park my car. My car has been playing up with its gearbox, getting a bit sticky on reverse and on first, so it won't go backwards, it will only go forwards and very fast. So I knew all these analogies that were occurring around me and I could see their reflection, but I still didn't listen. And long story short, I tried to park the car, couldn't get it into reverse. Ended up having to call my husband, which I'm a very independent woman, so that really grated me. And it was only when I did that someone walked by and asked if I had a spare and mentioned that my tyre had blown out. So what I'm getting at is I had the insight yesterday. I had guidance yesterday about taking a rest, not getting involved in the energies that were occurring, about needing time out. You know, I'm currently on my own iron tablets at the moment, and feeling a real emphasis of self-care, but that self-care actually just not getting involved in the energy of what is occurring around me, which is the biggest thing we can do for self-care. You know, we can go for a massage as much as we like, but if we continue to involve ourselves in particular energies that cause us tension without fixing them, we're just going to keep spending money on massages, which is great for those that are providing the massages, myself included. But, you know, healing really comes from getting to the root cause. Okay, massage, complementary therapies, holistic therapies, tarot readings, guidance, all that. Additional medicines are not there to cover what is going on. You know, it's kind of, we've got into a society where we feel a pain, we take a pill and we get on with things, and it's almost as if holistic therapies are going down that route as well, when actually their whole emphasis was to get to the bottom of what is going on and fix it from the inside out. So I had no idea this is where that this was going, but I was reading a thing the other day. I'm doing an Indian head massage course, and I was researching the other day about, you know, a long time ago, a doctor, a medicine person, you would only ever pay them to keep your health up together. If something actually went wrong, if you were poorly, you would never pay them because their job hadn't been successful. Now, imagine if we saw the world like that. Imagine if we had to go to the doctors when we were poorly, we wouldn't have to pay for the medicine because actually it means that the medicine people's work hadn't worked. Okay, now that's not to shun the responsibility, but there's something in that. If it's got to the point where we are ill, something along the line hasn't worked. So it is quite important sometimes to go backwards and look at what we may have not picked up or what we may have picked up along the way. So some of the guidance yesterday for myself and for the collective was to really look at what we were still carrying, and it's the guidance for September as well. I've written the blog for September, and because it came through, there's a difference between work and creativity that comes through naturally without being forced, and then there's a difference between I have these deadlines, which I know we all have, but I have these deadlines that are totally not regarding my own health and where I'm at the moment. And this week in particular is an opportunity to look at them with emphasis on the word deadlines, to cut through with that energy now, what isn't actually working for us in regards to how we create. So I can write a blog a month ahead because that energy has come in. But if I want to sit and do a video for today and the energy isn't right, it isn't right. And I've really felt that this morning. trying to set up the camera. My microphone, my camera and everything is all at work, so I'm working from home. My microphone and everything else is all there as well. So I've been borrowing my son's, which isn't working, and my computer has a real issue with microphone privacy settings. Now, I'm not a technology whiz, so I'm not going to waste any more energy trying to figure something out that is above and beyond what I understand and what I want to understand. So that again feels like key this week, to really listen to the guidance and to really have the courage to act on it for our own greater good, or to not suffer the consequences, not even pay the consequences, but be open to the consequences. So yes, my car needs fixing. I can no longer go backwards. The tyre thankfully has been replaced, and I really noticed yesterday how grateful I was to have a recovery van to come and get me, and compassion during that recovery, waiting for that recovery, which is also key this week. A family that cared about where I was and how I was, and friends as well, and a husband that came in not on a white horse but a motorbike, just to ensure that I was safe. And these things really came to the surface. Yes, there and an employer that was just get yourself safe, get yourself sorted. It was an inconvenience. It was an inconvenience I could have avoided. It was an inconvenience that has cost me money, which I ultimately had to pay out in the end anyway. I could have got ahead of the game with this and realised that these things need checking and need sorting, but I didn't. And that's really key this week. Particular messages that keep coming up that need sorting, that need investing in. There is no quick fix. And as we lead into September, wanting something to be over, wanting something to be finished isn't going to cut it anymore. There is no quick fix. There is no band-aid. These things need root, core, clearing out of old wounds in order for them to heal. It's kind of like a lot of us, and collectively, have gone backwards, had a little pick at the scab of what might be going on, and then just left it. And that is causing unnecessary pain. That isn't shifting things. And a lot of holistic therapies are being used, what I'm getting are being used to just cover things over. When people come to me for a healing, 9 times out of 10 they feel great, and the first thing I say to them is, I will contact you in 24 hours. Don't be surprised if X, Y, and Z. Now, that isn't to put a downer on the beauty that has just occurred, but when we have a healing, when we have a massage, when we truly shift something, the body adapts, the body adjusts, and it does do a clearing. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong or right about anything as far as I'm concerned, but there's nothing. If someone feels a little bit tired or a little bit drained or a little bit worse for wear after a healing or a holistic therapy or whatever, that is part of the process. And what I'm seeing is almost like that has been avoided. And that hasn't helped with the airy-fairy notion behind holistic therapies. Holistic therapies are here to heal. And that means feeling things. That means shifting things. That means facing things. That means clearing out the wounds. And what I can see is maggots. I can see putting maggots into the wound to really clear them out. We're talking old school medicine this week. A bit of a tangent there, but that also brings me on to the fact that I'm now using my phone. I'm using my phone to record this video. I don't have the stand that I would have with my laptop. I don't have the light in front of me that I would have with my camera. I don't have the ideal microphone or anything like that. And what feels key is to do the best we can with what we've got this week, because it's not until we do that that we realize what we've got is actually more than enough. And when we can then realize what we've got is more than enough, what we attract in is of a different vibration. So, scenario back to the car. Yes, forking out money for a tyre, not listening to my own instinct. I can see all of these signs and I can get really stuck in that. Oh, my car won't go into reverse, and really be aware of these analogies but get caught up in them and do nothing about them. Or I can look around me and think, actually, I do have a husband that's supporting me, and I can say husband after 10 years of an incredible journey and a lot of healing and a lot of shifting and a lot of work. I do have an incredible family around me, again, after a lot of healing, shifting and work. And yes, I can't afford it right now, but I also have a great amount of trust that I will be able to. Now, this has taken a long time Okay, so yesterday, seeing how far I'd come from pausing, breaking down, literally breaking down, which could be the key this week, I could show myself the compassion needed for the recovery that I was waiting for, that I was in, and that I was part of. So this week in particular, recognizing what you have is enough in this moment, looking at the wound underneath that maybe makes us believe that it isn't, that makes us believe that we're not. It's one thing to want to grow, to want to evolve, to want to bring in more things, more experiences, more relationships, more money, whatever it is we're trying to bring in. But if we're doing that from a place of this isn't enough, which is understandable, we're all there in our own ways. But if we continue to do that from that, what we're bringing in is actually this isn't enough. Really doing the work this week to see why things around us may not feel like they're enough, and ultimately reflecting it back to us. Why do we feel like we're not enough? Okay, so yes, this all came from breaking down on my car. All joking aside, the messages are there, guys. They're there all around us. They're all part of this universal communication. It is up to us to look out for them and then trust what it is we see. So I wouldn't change anything yesterday. I could have acted beforehand, but I wouldn't have got the insights. I could have invested in my van beforehand, but I wouldn't have had the compassion that I now have for myself now. And I think that's the key this week. Bring it full circle. See what is going on. Get the messages. Get the healing. Walk the medicine wheel. Okay, the unknown. Information comes in, the healing happens, we shed the past and what we no longer want to take forward, and then we move into Otorongo. We complete that circle, we let it go until the next time, and that's the key, until the next time. If we're going round and round and round and we find that we're repeating the same lesson, first and foremost, ask yourself, are you repeating the same lesson? Because if you are repeating the same lesson, then that means we haven't actually understood anything about the one before. Life is a spiral. It can feel very familiar. It can feel the same. But if it is identical, then nothing has actually changed with how you see things and what you have gained. So we can go through the same relationship concerns, but actually in order to see them, we must have learnt something. In order to move forward from them, recognize they're occurring, we have learnt something, therefore it is not the same. And what I'm getting is the analogy of the medicine wheel. When we're in a place of the unknown, we don't try and figure things out from that place. We move to the next stage of the medicine wheel. So we would move through to the eagle or condor, the higher perspective, and we would step back and look at it from a greater distance. This week, finding out where you are on the medicine wheel, what is actually going on, and looking at it from a different angle. We cannot change things by looking and acting at it from where we are. So yesterday, breaking down, yes, of course, I felt that panic and that, oh my goodness, and everything else. But actually, it took me stepping back and realizing what was going on around me to help me notice that I'd already seen these signs, that I was looked after on the motorway, thank you so much, that I was surrounded by support. And that morning, I was guided to take a step back and have some rest. Yeah, and I wouldn't change any of it. So really this week in particular, now I'm aware that my phone will only record for a certain amount of time, and I don't know how long that is, but this week in particular, listen to the messages, embody the messages, act on the messages, and show yourself some compassion. Show the messages themselves some compassion. Okay, anything else before I look into the energy? So I was given the quote for this video the day before yesterday, be like the wildflowers and grow where people wouldn't expect you to grow. And I can't quite figure out why I was given that quote. I have got some botanical oracle cards that I'm going to use, which are all to do with flowers, but I can't quite figure out. And the reason I can't quite figure out that quote is because I'm trying to discover where I could grow, where I wouldn't be expected to grow, which feels like emphasis this week, to maybe look at, so if we want lessons to change, stop bringing in the same ones. So to maybe look at areas where we've avoided growth or do something different, do a different reaction to it, to see just how far we've grown and how we could potentially grow in a different way. So same things going over and over and over. Instead of reacting in the same way, try and react differently and see how far you've come and how much you've grown. So yesterday, I think I probably surprised a few people by saying, actually, you know, thankfully I didn't die on the motorway with the blowout. I'm actually good waiting for the recovery man. I've got some water, I've got this, this and this. A few years ago, I remember breaking down on the way to Cornwall and I was just beside myself. It's like the world had ended. And it was because at that point, my anxiety was so strong that just driving in the car was too much for me. And here I was yesterday acknowledging all these things around me and still being okay. So recognizing where you've grown, where you may feel like you haven't, will actually change the lessons that you bring in, because your vibration will change. You know, your everything will, how you see yourself will shift, and therefore the lessons that are now needed for you will change also. So with that in mind, I'm going to look at the energies for this week. Yeah, okay, so I was looking up at my picture here, and it's The Wolf Keeper by Patrick Gamble, and in the corner it's like there's a few people fighting, and I thought, I don't know what that is, but it was there for a message, and it was about letting that go. And the card that I've pulled out as a result is actually the 10 of Swords. I mean, the good thing with this phone is you can see the pictures really well. That kind of hurt my back, actually. Like having to show a clearer picture kind of made me stretch my back. And there's something there this week about really stretching beyond our own mental thoughts about something. The 10 of Swords is the end, right? And it is how we choose to see it. So if something comes up and we think, gosh, I've been through this before, why is it coming up again? There's something I haven't learned, da 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 da. How are we seeing that? Maybe stretch beyond that. Maybe it is just a reminder to show you that you've done this, and then turn that switch, go up to your higher self, just flip. I think, I've done this now. Thank you very much for reminding me. I'd nearly got caught in that. So yesterday I very nearly got caught in I should have listened to the instinct. Oh, I should have put some money by. I should have done X, Y, and Z. And that's all very much, for me, it was from a place of lack. It was that saving for a rainy day. Now, great analogy, and one that I know my ancestors were definitely brought up on, but it also is kind of like you save for a rainy day, it's going to rain. Okay, so looking at our view of things, I'm not saying don't save, I'm not saying don't prepare yourself, but look at why you're preparing yourself and from what energy that is actually coming from this week, because it's time to let that go. It's time to make the 10 of Swords the end. Time to make the 10 of Swords the end rather than clinging. I see situations and people clinging to this because it's, gosh, it's going to go down well, but it can be comfortable. Our pain can be comfortable because we can fear stretching, right? Even stretching that picture up to the screen hurt my back. We can fear stretching beyond what we know. But what I feel is a real, beautiful, relaxing, calm energy coming in if we would just reach for it now. Okay, so energy this week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Overall, those 10 of Swords have come back out at the bottom of the pack. Okay, right. So we do have the 7 of Swords right at the top. No, we don't. We have the 7 of Pentacles right at the top here. It's very interesting that I say the 7 of Swords, because smack bam underneath that we have the 7 of Cups. And what I'm really feeling here is to acknowledge our mental energy this week, because it's almost like everything feels like the 7 of Swords. It's almost like everything feels a bit sneaky. Everything feels a bit undecided, our mind running away with us. But actually, right next to it is the 10 of Swords, so it's up to us to see how far we have grown in order to move on now from this negative mindset. Collectively, I can really, really feel this, because one of the only major arcana that's come up this week is the Hierophant, and immediately I felt this stereotypical dogmatic type energy, and I am seeing it around me. I'm seeing a lot of people suggesting that the only reason they talk about certain things or do things a certain way is because no one else will. And that has come from them being attacked from other people, which, let's really unravel this. If we need to share something, if we've been drawn to share something, that's beautiful. It doesn't need defending. And what it most definitely doesn't need is attacking those that don't feel drawn to share that, whether it's emotions, whether it's finances, whether it's guidance, whether it's love. If somebody is unable to meet us where we're at, or if someone has said to us, you've done X, Y, and Z and it doesn't agree with me, that's their prerogative. We can stem this blood loss. And what I see as a blood loss, I do see a bleeding out. We can stem this by saying, that's great. I'm here to do what I'm here to do. And this week, we're on the Monday, we do have the Page of Wands, and this Page of Wands is actually defending that. But what he's defending here is the beauty behind him. Those sunflowers waiting to grow, that incredible fiery light ready to rise, and it is being defended. But it is in how we choose to defend it. So we are all here trying to do what we're called to do. We are all here trying to be who we're trying to be. Look at how we defend that, particularly today. Look at how we are helping others to do that, or not, as the case may be. It's kind of like he's holding up this wand, but there's no light on it. It's not lit. There's no fire there. It's like, I am defending the rights of X, Y, and Z. With what? There's no light there. There's no light there. The idea is great. Yeah. The reason behind it is beautiful, but the light isn't there. And what's actually making those flowers grow is the light, the natural light of knowing that they will grow anyway in the sun. So come Tuesday, we have the 10 of Wands, and a lot of the times, and I speak from personal experience here, we get very caught up in what's going on around us because the alternative is to face what's going on for us. Now, that'll either resonate or it won't. And if it doesn't, great, fantastic. And if it does, whether it's in a great way or not a great way, okay. So it's the 10 of Wands. We're at the end here. What are you going to do about the fact that it resonates or not? With the 10 of Wands here, we are reminded about our own impact, our own soul's impact on the worlds around us, the macro and the micro. And if things are getting a little bit too much around us, what do we need to do? What do we need to do? Do we need to stir that up? Do we need to feed into that energy? Or do we need to take a step back and bring calm in chaos? There's always a place for all of us and what it is all of us are doing individually. And without acknowledging that, without supporting that, it can all feel a little bit too much. It can feel as if those that are fighting are the only ones fighting, and those that are trying to hold peace are the only ones trying to hold peace. But we are at an end here. It is about looking at the fact that everybody is trying to protect and bring forth these changes in relationships, in family, in the collective, and acknowledging that we all have our own role here, and stop taking on the parts of others. Stop taking on the parts of others. It's not empowering for us individually. It's not empowering for the collective, because everyone is here to do their part. All it does is lead to burnout and resentment. So on the Wednesday, we start to take a step back, and the cards go back in order. So we go back to the 9 of Wands here. I just want to bring up that on the 10 of Wands on the Tuesday, it is from the rune of protection. So it is about protecting ourselves from these energies, but more importantly, protecting ourselves from ourselves on the Tuesday, not bringing on more. I need to be aware of this. I've got a very busy day Tuesday, but not bringing on more than is necessary, especially if we don't like doing it. If we don't like doing it, don't do it. Don't point fingers at X, Y, and Z as to why we have to do it, or da 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 da. If you don't like doing it, don't do it. And it is very much about owning any consequences from what it is we choose to create as part of the creation itself, and being okay with that, knowing that we are given what we can handle. So if something happens and we get triggered by it, it's all part of the process, right? What goes up must come down. This is part of the process, it's part of the grounding in. Okay, so on the Wednesday we go backwards and we have the 9 of Wands. So it is about taking what is important. What is important? The difference between the 9 and the 10 is one wand. That page of wands, what is actually important? What is behind it all? We are all protecting the light. Does the light need protecting? Looking at the light that we believe in, if the light we believe in, if what we believe in is so magnificent and strong, does it need protecting or merely holding? Does it need changing or holding space for? Okay, on the 9 of Wands on the Wednesday. Come the Thursday, that kind of changes our drive, our passion into more emotional energy, and we may get inner child stuff on the Thursday because we have the Page of Cups here, and it's kind of like seeing how wonderful the world is, seeing how great the light is, seeing how amazing creative energy is, and recognizing we're part of it can be whoa. Returning that wonder to ourselves and to each other on the Thursday really feels quite important behind all the teachings that we may have experienced this week in particular. On the Friday we have the Hierophant. And it's a real difference here in energy. Instead of defending that light, instead of carrying that light, this character does have the opportunity to be the light on the Friday, rather than at the beginning of the week demanding this is how things should be and how people should act, and look at me, I'm doing X, Y, and Z. Just do it. Just do it. Just show the way without having to tell people you're showing the way. It's like a thing I see on TikTok. How do you know someone is X, Y, and Z without them telling you they're X, Y, and Z? This week in particular, how do you know someone is whatever it is you're trying to be? How could you be what you're trying to be without telling people that's who you are or demanding they be the same? On the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in particular, really becoming your own medicine and your own teacher. On the Saturday, we have the 4 of Wands, and we have Bacana at the bottom, which is the birth rune. And we have a beautiful union here of the masculine and the feminine, very well supported on the Saturday. Anything else in that? It's almost like I want to really find something else in that to focus on. And actually what I can see is the masculine and the feminine. I can see union, allowing that to be enough to be the focus this week in particular. The coming together of everything that you're trying to achieve, relationships, job, money, whatever it is, yourself and the collective, the coming together of that, meeting each other in your own way. Now, I do see that the feminine is more giving here to the masculine, but then in order for there to be birth, in order for Bacana to occur, the feminine needs to receive the masculine. So it's one thing to reflect on our actions. It's one thing to reflect on what has happened. What are we willing to receive from this? So when, back to the car analogy, when my car broke down, yes, I could see all these wonderful things and not so wonderful things that were happening, but underneath it all, what I needed to open up to was how supported I was, how loved I was. And that was quite difficult for me. I'm a very independent woman. That was quite difficult for me. But it was beautiful as well. So on the Saturday, we've learned all these things. We've brought them all together. What does union look like? What does unity look like? What are you now ready to be open to receive on the Saturday? And on the Sunday, it's kind of like that energy didn't last long because we have the King of Swords. But actually, knowing that from a place of receptivity, from a place of femininity, we can act, and it can be soft, and it can be strong, and it can be union of them all. It can be the peaceful warrior on the Sunday. We can recognize that there are ways to act, there are ways to be. It's different for everybody, that we're all here to do our own little thing. I'm just looking at a picture of my mother, and she's like, my late mother, and she's got a face mask on, a face pack on, and she's doing like a dance. And there's something in that with the rituals and the self-care and all of it this week, bringing it all together. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to take a step back and we're going to look at the overall energies. I'm just mindful of the time, so if the video stops halfway, it's because I only have a certain amount of time. That feels like key this week, to recognize where we have only got a certain amount of time, or where we may feel like we only have a certain amount of time. That brings us on to the 10 of Wands, right? That, oh my God, I've got to get this done, that burnout. Trusting the creative flow. Okay, so we have one pentacle card. So the Ace of Pentacles, if you will, that new beginning this week actually comes from the Seven of Pentacles. The growth. If we can see the growth, if we can see where we have grown, where we may not have expected to grow, and it may not be the obvious. You know, I'm doing lots of different courses, and I can go, oh yes, I've grown with X, Y, and Z, but actually sat on the curb yesterday waiting for the recovery man, I learned more in that moment of how much I'd grown than I have through any of the courses that I've done, because that growth came from application for me. So very, very important this week, not only to see where we've grown, but how we've applied that to life, especially leading into September. We will be drawn to look at different views of things, but the ultimate culmination available in September will be how we apply that knowledge. So on the Seven of Pentacles, you can see that there's a lot of shields here. The pentacles are actually shields, but he hasn't got one in his hands. He's just got a sword. He's hung up his shields. He's hung up his need to protect there. Okay, so he's open to receive. He's done the battles. He's done the wars. He's learnt the lessons. He's open to receive. We then have two sword cards. So again, that Two of Swords, the Ten of Swords and the King of Swords. What's the difference between them? The ability to be at peace. The difference between it all getting a bit too much mentally and knowing how to move forward with clear clarity is the ability to be at peace with what we feel and what we do and how we act in each moment. So just investing in that split second this week in particular is going to be beneficial in the months to come. Pausing, breathe. What am I going to gain from this? What is to be gained from this? Whatever I'm going to share. Why am I sharing it? Where am I sharing it from? And what is to be gained from this? And that's right down to every single word this week. Every single word. So I'm getting the analogy of a film that I saw with Eddie Murphy. And he only had so many words left in his life. And once they'd all fallen like leaves off a tree, he would die. If we only had so many words, or if we were aware of our thoughts and our words and our communication, how would that change things? I know Mercury's about to go retrograde as we lead into the next month, and just being aware of that, we'll be giving a wonderful opportunity to reflect on how we communicate and the many different ways that we communicate. Bring it back to basics, guys. So like, I'm on the phone. Yeah, all the sparkly bits, the cameras, the lights, it's all gone. It's raw. I'm on my phone. Bring it back to basics. Yeah, some of these technologies that we have gained have been used as a wonderful face mask. Bring it back to basics. Some knowledge, yeah, has become bigger than it actually needed to be. And I'm looking at the Hierophant here. So I'm looking at the only major arcana this week, and it is the Hierophant. Are we using our insights, our knowledge, our teachings to help people, ourselves included, or are we continuing to hold ourselves and each other back? I hear the song Live and Let Live. Just live and let live. Get on with what you're here to do. Be the teacher in the example this week in particular. And then I'm drawn to the Four of Wands, and that's where I'm drawn to the female receptive. It's kind of like wanting to receive but not quite being able to let go this week and receive what is trying to come in. So everything that you share, imagine if you received that back, that will change what we share and how we share, right? Okay, so we then have wand wise 1, 2, 3, 3 wands, so 4 wands, sorry. So we are talking stability, and we are talking creativity, and we are talking that 4 of wands again. The masculine appears very young this week, very defensive this week. Our actions, excuse me, can almost be quite defensive, and it is really looking at what it is we are defending, where we are defending from, and being aware of that. Knowing that things grow naturally without our interference. So I've got really quite wrapped up in the fact that I haven't watered my garden for some time, and it's very, very dry, and there's a lot of herbs that have died and a lot of flowers that have died. But like the wildflowers, they will come back, and they will blossom, and they will grow just when I think that they can't. And I've had to leave be for the greater good. Yeah. As a midwife, one of the best things we can do is to sit on our hands and not get involved. Certain things are growing and delivering themselves. They don't always need intervention, and intervention can actually lead to, like in midwifery terminology, blood loss. Intervention can actually lead to bleeding out. So look at where you're interfering, and yes, it is interfering, and look at the damage, the trauma that can happen as a result, or is behind the reason that you feel the need to jump in and say something or defend someone's growth. What interesting week. It is for, and it is about our foundations, and it is about rebuilding them, and it is about knowing when to give, when to receive, when to take stock, how we defend, why we're defending, and recognizing that we're at the end of this cycle. It's not to be taken forward next year. It is not to be taken forward, and if it is, it will be within the first few months of next year. But I actually hear it's not to be taken forward. It's going back to that original message at the beginning of this video. Wanting something to be over isn't enough anymore. Do the work. Do the work. And that sounds really harsh, but it isn't anything that you're not ready for. It isn't anything that we collectively aren't prepared for, and it isn't anything that we haven't got the support for. It's there, but it's about opening to receive that now. I'm seeing a lot of situations where we can find ourselves mixing with energies, people, circumstances that are comfortable, that won't rock our boat. It's kind of coming to an end. Okay, there's only so much we can have reflected back that's comfortable, so we can stay the same. We're all here to grow, and that growth will happen one way or another. So just being aware of that this week. Okay, anything else on the wands? It feels like I want to stay on the wands. It feels like I don't want to face the one cup card that we have. Yeah, like not wanting to face the emotions. That's the reason why it's so fiery this week. It is the Page of Cups. So remembering underneath all these emotions is the sheer awe and wonder of life, the sheer beauty and new beginnings that are available when we open our heart to receive whatever it is we actually really want. So the world that we want to see, or the relationships that we want to see, rather than push and trying to drive them forward in a masculine way, being open to receive them and becoming them first naturally attracts them. So I think that's probably it for this week, actually. It is back to basics. It really is back to basics. It is recognizing that medicine isn't there to cover things. It's there to dig deep this week, to get back to the magic that we saw by recognizing how much we have grown, in particular in places where we didn't think we would. So one overall card for this week, please. I've already got it. I don't believe it. So I thought I'd taken this card out of the pack because it isn't actually a card. Well, it is a card, obviously, but it isn't one of the cards of the pack. It's advertising to follow the individual on Instagram and on Facebook. But this card looks like strength. It looks like strength. It's the second time it's come out, actually, and it is very much about facing the demons this week, facing our own demons this week, because the card on the top of the pack, oh, beautiful, gosh. Okay, right, wow, you couldn't write this. I'm just aware, I think my time stops at 40 minutes, but the card on the top of the pack, the Tower, huge changes occurring, and we are supported by dragons this week. I've already felt them, but transformative energies, connecting to the earth, connecting to that power to change within us this week, that natural cycle that we all have, and having belief in that now and remembering that within us. The Tower, we then had the Star card. Recognizing what we're fighting for doesn't actually need fighting for. It's part of the higher vision of who we are. It's part of the very changes that are occurring. It might not feel like it, but in order to achieve certain things, certain aspects need to crumble and fall because they're not serving us in our highest good. They're not helping. Oh, it's okay. 40 minutes is okay. They're not helping us towards that greater vision. Okay, and releasing them. We then have the Moon. Okay, so what happens when we stop fighting? What happens when we receive rather than continually move forward our emotions? We start to battle with them. And that's where it's all coming from this week in particular. That's the biggest change needed, not to fight our emotions, not to fight our own natural cycles. We will feel when something isn't right, just like me with the car. And it's up to us to listen or receive the consequences. We then have the Sun underneath it all. It is about lightening it up. It is about lifting up this energy. It is about reconnecting to our inner light. The sunflowers at the beginning of this reading on the Page of Wands. We don't defend things in our actions and how we think things should be. We defend them by being in our light, our natural light, and empowering others to do it. Because then, like the wildflowers, we grow where we least expect. And so will others. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful week. Take care.